This video was brought to you by Brilliant. For most of the past few years, it's looked almost inevitable that Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party would lose the next Canadian election. The economy has been stagnant, GDP per capita has actually been falling, and Trudeau himself was, and is, appallingly unpopular. In fact, when he resigned in December, the Liberals were something like 30 points behind Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives, and an election was due by October at the latest. However, in the 2 months since, the Liberals' fortunes have apparently reversed, and the latest polling suggests that the Liberals could even deny the Conservatives an outright majority. So in this video, we're going to take another look at Canadian politics, how the Liberals have apparently recovered, and what might happen next. Do you have questions about how TLDR really makes money? Watch us respond to your criticisms in a dedicated criticism response video. It's linked in the description. So, let's start with a bit of context. As we've explained in previous videos, Canada's incumbent Liberal Party have had a tough few years. Their poll numbers have fallen steadily, and by the end of last year, they're about 25 points behind the main opposition party, Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives, and not much above their former coalition partners, the NDP. Trudeau's own approval ratings were arguably even worse, having fallen steadily since the pandemic. By December, just before he resigned as the leader of the Liberals, only 22% of Canadians said that they approved of him. And that leaves 70% of Canadians saying that they didn't approve of him, implying a net approval rating of -52, one of the lowest approval ratings for any sitting Prime Minister in Canadian political history. Morning Consult polling from early January found something similar, putting Trudeau on par with famously unpopular world leaders like Olaf Scholz. However, in the past couple of weeks, the polling seems to have shifted dramatically. Almost immediately after Trudeau resigned, the Liberals started climbing in the polls, and haven't stopped since. 338 Canada, for instance, estimates that the Conservatives' lead has fallen from 25 points when Trudeau resigned to just 10 last week, and they're on track for just 177 seats, only slightly above the 172 seats required for a majority. Astonishingly, the most recent polling even suggests that the Liberals could actually win, which would have been nearly unthinkable just a few weeks ago. Ipsos polling carried out last week, for instance, gave the Liberals a 2-point lead over Conservatives, with 38% of the vote to the Conservatives' 36%, while Ecos polling carried out at the same time found something similar. This momentum has made the betting markets even more pessimistic than the polls. Polymarket, for instance, currently suggests that there's just a 38% chance of the Conservatives winning a majority at the next election, down from 90% in early January, and even a 34% chance of the Liberals winning the most seats. So, what explains this bounce in the polls? Well, obviously, quite a lot of it has to do with Trump, but before we get into that, there are at least 3 other reasons. Trudeau's unpopularity, Poilievre's unpopularity, and the electoral collapse of the Liberals' coalition partner, the NDP. Let's start with Trudeau, though. In short, Trudeau was stupidly unpopular, and his likely successor, former Bank of Canada Governor Mark Carney, is, well, quite popular. Carney is a newcomer to Canadian politics, perhaps best known for guiding Canada through the 2008 financial crisis, and voters apparently appreciate a fresh face after 10 years of Trudeau. This has also allowed Carney to distance himself from the failures of the Trudeau government, which proved more difficult for other Liberal politicians, like rival leadership candidate Chrystia Freeland. During the most recent leadership debate, for instance, Carney was able to criticise Trudeau's economic record, arguing that all of Canada's recent economic growth has been driven by immigration, and his most recent campaigner describes Poilievre as a career politician his entire life. According to Abacus data polling from January, Carney has a net approval rating of +13, above both Trudeau and Freeland, who sits on -1. But while subbing in Carney has apparently helped the Liberals distance themselves from the failures of the previous government, the NDP, who were in coalition with the Liberals, are still led by the same guy, Jagmeet Singh, and are very much still tarnished by association. As you can see from the polling graph, the NDP have collapsed in the polls since Trudeau's resignation, with most of their voters going to the Liberals. It's also apparent that some of the NDP are tepidly backing the Liberals. This certainly seems to be true in Quebec, where the Liberal government has brought in a prominent Quebec NDP strategist to become a member of the newly established Canada-US Relations Council. In addition to this, Singh himself is pretty unpopular. While he polls pretty well with NDP voters, he's not that popular with the wider public. Angus repolling, for instance, put his net approval rating at -16. Nonetheless, that was still slightly better than Poilievre, who came in at -18. And this is the third reason the Liberals are surging in the polls. As we noted in our last video, while he's often hailed as some sort of conservative superstar, Poilievre just isn't that popular with ordinary Canadians, and his net approval rating has hovered around -15 for the past few years. But Poilievre's pre-existing electoral shortcomings have been very much exacerbated by Trump. In case you somehow missed it, in the past few months, Trump has threatened tariffs, annexation, and claimed that Canada is, quote, not viable as a country. This has been bad news for Poilievre for a variety of reasons. Firstly, it's triggered a sort of rally round the flag effect, which has helped the incumbent Liberals. Second, voters no longer think about housing or immigration, which are Poilievre's favourite talking points, and instead are more focused on which prospective PM will be better suited to negotiate with Trump. Unfortunately for him, Poilievre doesn't come out on top here. Nanos research polling carried out a month ago found that 39% of Canadians thought that Mark Carney was best qualified to negotiate with Trump, while only 26% thought it was Poilievre. And third, at least some voters associate Poilievre with Trump. And while there's no direct link, Poilievre has long been one of MAGA's favourite politicians, and he moves in the same orbit as people like Jordan Peterson, who's at least MAGA adjacent. It also doesn't help that the Conservatives, since the 1980s, have been seen as the pro-American party in Canada. Now, Poilievre has tried to recalibrate, redirecting his attacks from Trudeau to Trump, and switching out his earlier campaign slogan of Canada is broken to a new one of Canada first. But it's not an easy pivot. Not least because some of Poilievre's base is sympathetic to Trump. All in all, while another Liberal victory still feels unlikely at this point, an outright Conservative majority is now very much an open question, especially if Trump continues to dominate the headlines and flirt with turning Canada into the 51st state. Now, the thing is, often in politics, we need to understand a wide variety of topics to truly grasp what's going on. And fortunately, our sponsor this week, Brilliant, can help us do just that, with thousands of lessons in maths, science, programming, and AI. And not only that, their interactive lessons teach you by doing, instead of just asking you to mindlessly memorize stuff. In turn, this helps to build your critical thinking skills and become a better thinker. For instance, Brilliant's newly updated maths courses help you to establish a strong foundation in algebra. It then helps you to build on this, teaching you how to conquer calculus, all while maintaining an emphasis on problem solving and reasoning. The thing I like most about this, though, is that their mathematical courses help you to develop your mathematical intuition and fluency, skills that you can use in the real world. As we've told you before, data skills are absolutely necessary for navigating the modern world, and Brilliant is the best way to get them. To try everything that Brilliant has to offer for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/TLDR, or click the link in the description. And by doing so, you'll get 20% off an annual premium subscription.